Hey everybody, have a wonderful day. In this video talk about Moto G84 review. Subscribe our channel for future updates. Motorola has always had a knack for making great budget devices. Nowadays, the company has a rather full and fleshed out portfolio, including more premium models from the Edge series, and even its foldable form factor offers in the Razr line. Still, there is something about the Moto G line that remains the bread and butter of the legendary company. Today, we have the Moto G84 in for review. It is technically the highest-end offer within the budget G family, and budget does remain the main focus here, with an MSRP of INR 19,999, $245 per €222 in India and €299 on European markets. The Moto G84 has a classical look all around, but one slightly spiced up by the inclusion of Pantone color options, Viva Magenta and Marshmallow Blue. Both of these variants come with a faux leather back panel and a vibrant color. The phone can also be had with a plastic back in the more conservative midnight blue color, while still offering a color-matched camera island and middle frame. Motorola Moto G84 specs at a glance. Body, 160.0 x 74.4 x 7.6 mm, 166 grams, glass front, plastic frame, plastic back or eco-leather back, IP54, dust and splash resistant. Display, 6.50 OLED, 1B colors, 120 Hz, 1300 nits peak, 1080x2400px resolution, 20:9 aspect ratio, 405 pixels per inch. Chipset, Qualcomm SM6375 Snapdragon 695 5G, 6 nanometers, octa-core, 2x 2.2 GHz Cryo 660 gold and 6x 1.7 GHz Cryo 660 silver, Adreno 619. Memory, 256 GB 12 GB RAM, UFS 2.2, micros DXC, uses shared SIM slot. OS, software, Android 13. Rear camera, wide main, 50 megapixels, f/1.9, 1/1.5, 1.0 micrometers, PDAF, OIS, ultra-wide angle, 8 megapixels, f/2.2, 120 degree, 1/4.0, 1.12 micrometers, AF. Front camera, 16 megapixels, f/2.5, wide, 1.0 micrometers. Video capture, rear camera, 1080p at 30/60 fps, front camera, 1080p at 30 fps. Battery, 5000 mAh, 30W wired. Connectivity, 5G, hybrid dual SIM, Wi-Fi 6, BT 5.1, NFC, FM radio, market, region dependent, 3.5mm jack. MISC, fingerprint reader, under display, optical, stereo speakers. Besides looking great, the Moto G84 also packs some interesting specs for its budget price tag. The 6.55, 10-bit OLED display with a 120 Hz refresh rate and 240 Hz touch sampling rate stands out. Motorola promises 1300 nits of maximum brightness on the particular panel. Other highlights include a stereo speaker setup complete with Dolby Atmos support, Moto Spatial sound support, and a 3.5mm audio jack. The G84 also comes with 2 nano SIM slots, one of which also doubles as a micro SD expansion slot. Though only consisting of 2 modules, the rear camera system on the phone looks impressive on paper, with a 50 megapixels, OIS-enabled main snapper and an 8MP ultrawide, complete with autofocus in order to double as a macro camera. The Moto G84 also has a fairly large 5000 mAh battery despite its pretty light 166.8 grams body. Unfortunately, Motorola had to cut corners somewhere and decided to skimp on the chipset. The Snapdragon 695 was never a particularly good chip, even back in 2021 when it was announced. It is not particularly powerful, but that's arguably not its biggest crutch, which is its ISP, which is limited to 1080p video capture. A very unfortunate reality to deal with in 2023. Still, if you don't care about any of that, the G84 has plenty of other redeeming qualities and seems quite likable, at least on the surface. Unboxing. Before we delve any deeper, let's see what sort of retail box the Moto G84 ships with. The packaging here is plastic-free, which we very much appreciate. Besides that, the two-piece box is nothing special and is mostly rocking a natural, cardboard color, which is not intrinsically a bad thing. The box is hard and sturdy. It's definitely good enough to protect the phone during shipping. There is also a very decent, even if cardboard, internal cradle to hold the phone itself in place. Motorola is quite generous when it comes to the accessory package. The Moto G84 comes with a 33W Moto turbo power charger in the box and an accompanying USB Type-A to Type-C cable. It is a standard USB cable without any additional pins, which is good to see. Motorola also included a nice transparent TPU cover in our retail box. That, however, might only be the case in some markets. You should check with your local retailer. Design. As already mentioned, the Moto G84 is rocking a very traditional design. Dare we say even a bit boring. Shape-wise, there is nothing particularly interesting here. The G84 uses a standard, sandwich, construction with the front and back, mostly flat panels tucked inside the plastic middle frame. There are still some strategically placed chamfers that improve handling and add a little flair to the design. The real visual attraction here is the color options. These are 3 in total: marshmallow blue, midnight blue and Viva magenta. From what we can gather, just the hero color, Viva magenta, comes courtesy of Motorola's partnership with Pantone. This is what our review unit is colored in, and it looks awesome. We particularly like how the color looks slightly different on the different surfaces of the phone, yet well matched down to the phone's camera island and middle frame. In terms of materials, marshmallow blue and Viva magenta have faux leather backs with a very pleasant fine texture to them. Midnight blue comes with a more traditional plastic smooth back panel. Still, the color matching is present on all of the color variants. We quite enjoy the aesthetics of the camera island. There is nothing particularly special about it, yet it still looks memorable enough with its color-matched surface finish. The same goes for the middle frame, which pulls off a very convincing, almost brushed metal kind of look. Of course, it is plastic to the touch, but that doesn't detract from the impressive look. Connectivity. The Moto G84 is a dual SIM 5G device with support for both SA and NSA sub-6 on both SIM slots. In terms of local connectivity, the G84 supports dual-band Wi-Fi 6, AX, Bluetooth 5.1 with LA support. The phone also gets both an FM radio receiver and NFC, but both are market-dependent, so be sure to check with your local vendor. For positioning, the G84 has GPS, GLONASS and Galileo support. The Type-C port on the Moto G84 supports a USB 2.0 data connection, which means a theoretical max transfer speed of 480 megabits per second. There is USB OTG host support, but unfortunately, you don't get anything fancy like video output. However, Moto Connect is on the G84, allowing you to connect to displays wirelessly via Miracast. A PC companion app is available that can communicate with the G84 and allow you to use apps on your PC, share files and even use the phone as a webcam. The Moto G84 has a pretty decent set of sensors on board. These include a LSM6 DSO accelerometer and gyroscope combo, an eminent 512 light and hardware proximity sensor and a QMC 6308 magnetometer and compass combo. You are missing a barometer, though. 120 Hz, 10-bit POLED display. The display is clearly the Moto G84's highlight. It is rocking a 6.5-inch POLED display with 120 Hz refresh rate and 10-bit color. It is punching above its price range, even simply on paper. Resolution-wise, you get the pretty standard 1080 by 2400 pixels or 29 full plus. That results in roughly around 405 pixels per inch of pixel density, which is perfectly sharp in person. Motorola advertises 1300 nits of maximum brightness on the G84, which is quite impressive. In our standardized testing, we measured 502 nits on the slider and a maximum of 996 nits in auto mode in bright conditions. As a reminder, we test displays at 75% fill, so Motorola's advertised numbers sound perfectly plausible when measured on a smaller area. In practical terms, the G84 is plenty bright and perfectly usable outdoors, even in direct sunlight. The Moto G84 has a total of 2 color modes, the default saturated mode and the natural mode. Saturated targets the DCI-P3 color space and does that quite well. Color accuracy is also decent, though not perfect, with pretty saturated blues and an overall cold tint. You can correct most of that using the included color temperature slider. In natural mode, the Moto G84 aims for the sRGB color space and practically nails that with delta values of under 2 and thus low enough for the mode to be considered color accurate and even good enough for color sensitive work. The Moto G84 also offers 10-bit color. Despite that and its solid brightness output, it has no hardware support for HDR on the display. That's a real shame and a missed opportunity in our mind, as it would go well with the existing stereo speaker setup with Dolby support. From a decoder standpoint, the G84 supports HDR10 and HLG. There is no HDR10+, nor is there Dolby Vision. At least we are happy to report that the Moto G84 has the highest possible Widevine L1DRM certification, allowing services like Netflix to offer full stream to saturate the phone's display resolution. Battery life. The Moto G84 has a fairly large 5000 mAh battery on board. While not a powerhouse in any way, the Snapdragon 695 has already proven itself time and time again to be a very energy-efficient chip. Overall, the Moto G84 does not disappoint in the battery department. The Moto G84 managed a solid active use score of 1230 hours. It did alright in most every category, except for gaming, which is a bit on the lower end of the spectrum. Still, the Moto G84 managed to outpace both the Galaxy A54 and Xiaomi Redmi Note 12 Pro in this test. Charging speed. The Moto G84 offers modest but still respectable 30W wired charging. There is a bundled 33W charger in the box, which Motorola calls a turbo power charger. It is rated for the following outputs: 5V at 3A, 9V at 3A, 11V at 3A and 12V at 2.5A. A quick test reveals that it actually supports the Quick Charge 3 Plus standard. Naturally, with a maximum charge of 30W, the Moto G84 is not about to top any charts. Still, it charges reasonably fast for a modern device. Speakers. The Moto G84 is equipped with a stereo speaker setup. There is one dedicated bottom-firing speaker and an amplified earpiece that handles the other channel. This is a so-called hybrid setup, which is pretty common nowadays. This asymmetrical speaker positioning does harm the balance of the audio output. Even so, the G84 manages to produce a surprisingly balanced sound. Good loudness score in our testing, even if just barely so. Regarding frequency response, the output of the G84 is quite clean. Mids, in particular, like voices, sound good and clear, which is arguably the most important bit. There is even some semblance of bass. This could at least partially be thanks to the inclusion of Dolby Atmos on the G84. You get a full equalizer to play around with and presets, including an automatic, smart one. The G84 also supports Motorola's spatial sound technology. It offers virtualized surround sound and actually works pretty well in practice. Performance and benchmarks. The Snapdragon 695 was announced back in 2021 and is definitely getting on in years. It was never a particularly powerful chip to begin with, but rather a decent and power-efficient mid-ranger with 5G capabilities. The Snapdragon 895 was a popular choice for mid-rangers for quite some time, but it is past its prime, and there are definitely better, newer, price-comparable chips on the market. Its noteworthy shortcoming is the limited DSP, which caps camera video capture to 1080p. The Snapdragon 695 offers a modest octa-core CPU setup 2x2.20 GHz Cryo 660 Gold and 6x1.70 GHz Cryo 660 Silver and a somewhat meager Adreno 619 GPU. Nothing chart-topping for sure. The Moto G84 only comes in one memory configuration with 12GB of LPDDR4X RAM and 256GB of UFS 2.2 storage. Neither is a particularly cutting-edge interface and doesn't offer the best operating speeds. At least on a positive note, the storage is expandable via a microSD card. The Snapdragon 695 offers a modest octa-core CPU setup 2x2.20 GHz Cryo 660 Gold and 6x1.70 GHz Cryo 660 Silver and a somewhat meager Adreno 619 GPU. Nothing chart-topping for sure. The Moto G84 only comes in one memory configuration with 12GB of LPDDR4X RAM and 256GB of UFS 2.2 storage. Neither is a particularly cutting-edge interface and doesn't offer the best operating speeds. At least on a positive note, the storage is expandable via a microSD card. Camera app. The camera app on the G84 is developed in-house, in contrast to the otherwise stock-looking approach to software. The basics are as usual. The camera modes are arranged in a customizable carousel formation, with the More tab at the rightmost end of the carousel holding the more seldom used shooting modes. Pro mode gives you full control over the camera's settings like white balance, ISO, focus, shutter speed, and exposure compensation, and it works on all cameras, both rear ones and the selfie camera, minus the manual focusing. A tiny live histogram is provided, but there's no focus peaking or zebras. Additional settings for each camera mode can be found by swiping down in the viewfinder. There's a tiny bar at the far end to indicate that, but if you miss it, you may be left wondering where some controls are, like the self-timer settings in photo mode. Video capture quality. Video capture on the Moto G84 is a bit of a mixed bag. This is one area in which the Snapdragon 695 chipset choice really hurts the phone since it limits capture resolution to 1080p. That's a real shame since, other than that, Motorola offers a versatile set of video capturing options. Video can be recorded from every camera on the phone, including the ultrawide, in a special macro mode. You also get the option of using EIS in every video capture scenario. On top of that, there is a H.265 HEVC option in settings, which again can be applied to any of the cameras. Our verdict: the Moto G84 is what we would call a very non-offensive device. It rocks a classical look without any unnecessary austerity while still offering a splash of personality for those who want it in the signature Pantone Viva magenta color option. It is a very well constructed and, possibly more importantly, surprisingly light and well-balanced device. While imperfect, the included IP54 ingress protection also offers peace of mind. There is plenty to like about the 6.5-inch OLED display of the Moto. It gets very bright and has excellent color accuracy and even 10-bit colors. Unfortunately, these two excellent aspects are not leveraged for HDR support, which seems like a missed opportunity. Besides that, the Moto G84 offers a surprisingly enjoyable multimedia experience thanks to the already mentioned display and a very competent stereo speaker setup. There is even a 3.5mm audio jack if that is your thing. The 5000 mAh battery, while not the fastest in terms of charging, also offers great battery endurance all around. We also generally enjoyed our experience with the cameras on the Moto G84, particularly during the day. The autofocusing ultrawide that doubles as a macro shooter is worth highlighting in particular. Unfortunately, the overall excellent value package of the G84 is badly soiled by Moto's choice of chipset. The Snapdragon 695 simply has no place on a modern 2023 device. It was never particularly good, even when it was new a couple of years ago, and nowadays, it is just woefully underpowered compared to what the competition is offering. However, one of the biggest blows it delivers is the 1080p video capture resolution limitation. Honestly, the Snapdragon 695 kind of ruins the G84 for us. If, however, you don't particularly care about performance, which, mind you, is still decent in practical day-to-day terms and can live with the Snapdragon 695, the rest of the G84 package is solid through and through. Pros: slick classical design with solid build quality, Gorilla Glass, IP54 ingress protection and a light body. Bright OLED display with great color accuracy and 10-bit color. Good price-performance ratio. Great battery life. Impressively clean stereo speaker system with Dolby Atmos and spatial audio, plus a 3.5mm audio jack. Clean nearly AOSP software with some powerful Moto additional features. Good daylight camera performance all around. 256GB base storage and expandable storage. Generous retail package. Cons: display has no HDR support. High refresh handling needs some work, especially for gaming use. The Snapdragon 695 is aging, not particularly performant and limits video capture to 1080p. Low light camera performance is only average. Thanks for watching this video. What you think about Moto G84?